Chronicles, an infamous set in MTG history to say the least. Was this a knife in the heart of collectors who had invested in the game up to that point, or was it accessibility for new and poorer players? That one. It was the second one. No matter how you may feel about it personally, Chronicles changed a lot about our game, from the way core sets and reprints work, all the way to the reserved list. If you don't like that, or if you do for that matter, you have Chronicles to thank for it. So much of the timeline that Magic the Gathering and Wizards of the Coast as a gaming company have been on in the last 25 years are directly influenced by the fallout from this singular set. And yet, if you mention it in card shops nowadays, you're bound to get puzzled looks by players who have only been on Magic since War of the Spark. And it's just criminal to me that this set is all but lost to the sands of time at this point. Chronicles came out on or around my birthday, the year that I started playing Magic, and I'd only been playing for a few months, but I already heard stories of these incredible, legendary cards that were already hundreds of dollars and I would never have any chance of owning, and yet Chronicles gave me a chance to own some of those cards, so it's a very special set to me. So today, let's take a walk down memory lane for the older folks and introduce the newer folks to a set that you might have never known existed and yet is one of the most controversial sets of all time. Let's take a look through the Chronicles. Globes are neat. What up, Wizards? It's Dev, aka Terrence the Time God, opening up the vault to look at 10 cards from Chronicles that I really like. And today, a special guest, large globe in the shot that ended up doing kind of a forced perspective thing, but I guess this way I can spin it whenever I want. By the way, this is a different globe. I told my mom once that I really like globes, and now every time she sees a globe at like a thrift store, rescue mission or something, she buys it for me. So I have like 4 globes in my house I don't know what to do with. They're nice. Thanks for the globes. They're very nice. They make me seem like an erudite person that should have a study and like multiple volumes of the Encyclopedia Britannica, but I don't. I play lots of video games and watch cartoons. Anyway, Chronicles, yes, that's what the globe is for. We're talking about Chronicles today. Can I get this out of the... You've done your job, buddy. Now here's how today is going to work, because this video could work a whole bunch of different ways. I could just talk about the most iconic cards in Chronicles, even though a lot of those aren't very good, right? Like the Elder Dragons are all in Chronicles, including Nicol Bolas, who looks very different, but he isn't very good. Do not tell him that I said that. Elsewise, a fictional character on a piece of cardboard might come to life and hurt me. What am I on about? Anyway, what I could also do here is talk about some of the wackiest cards in the set, the stuff that killed me when I was 12 years old, right? Like Witch Hunter, which is a really cool card. White cards don't tap to ping. What is that all about? White cards don't bounce? That's so weird. Or maybe we could do like Tackle Maggot. I guess that was a card that killed me a few times. I hate this card. It basically kills all your guys over the course of a few turns, and then it comes to kill you, is what all of that text means. If you read all that text, it's actually not a terrible magic card, even though it's 4 mana for a thing that takes multiple turns to kill one creature. It's bad by today's standards, but Tackle Maggot has killed me. But in any case, we're going to talk about the actual best cards in this set today. Of course, disclaimer, that said, I still get an honorable mention, right? And I get to make that a stupid card. I get to make that the zaniest card I can possibly think of that's still a little bit playable. And I think you could make the argument that in certain commander decks, Serpent Generator might still have a home. Snake and Bait cost a lot of mana. 6 is a lot to get on the board, and I'm not going to argue with you about that. You're correct. You're right. You don't hear people say that on the internet enough. You're right. And you're also right, by the way. The activation cost is very expensive. I will give that point to you too, sir or madam. However, if you can actually get your Serpent Generator rolling in your stupid little Poison Commander deck, then it's probably one of the better cards to have access to in the whole 99. Making a dude every turn that can poison people, especially combined with stuff that can untap the generator and you can use it over and over. You get 2 or 3 poison guys a turn, now you're like really doing something. I mean, you're making 3/1/1s a turn. At this point, it's pretty late in the game and your opponents are doing real things. But if your deck is all about poison, you would be wrong, probably, to not have 1 copy of Serpent Generator in there. Number 10 will be an immediate blast from the past for any kitchen table players from way back in the day, and, for that matter, any competitive players, because number 10 is Felden's Cane. Yes, feel the wave of nostalgia wash over you for the big purple bird stick, and If you're a newer player and you've never seen Felden's Cane, get very jealous this card isn't available to play in Standard when you play against those dumb mill decks. See, back in the day, even if your opponent wasn't milling you, games would often go long enough that you'd need a Felden's Cane, especially in your control deck, where this puts all of your draw spells and your counter spells and your removal spells and your win conditions back into your deck after about an hour of playtime. That's how we used to play Magic. We needed effects like this. It wasn't just that we wanted them, we needed them. And honestly, in Commander nowadays, it's a 1 mana artifact. So if your deck cares about artifacts, if your deck cares about artifacts that pop, that's a thing. If your deck just cares about cheap artifacts in any way whatsoever, Felden's Cane is still kind of one of the best options for you. And number 9 is Hell's Caretaker. Now, there's a lot of great things about this card. First of all, the art is very cool. Second of all, you get to play with a card called Hell's Caretaker, which is awesome. But if those were the only 2 criteria to make the list, then like the Wretched would be on the list. There's another wave of nostalgia for you. Remember how awesome the Wretched was? Probably not playable though, but Hell's Caretaker I think is pretty playable in a lot of Commander decks that care about sacrificing creatures or getting value out of your graveyard, because look at this thing. I know it costs a good amount of mana and it's a little bit fragile once it is on the table, but if you get even 1 activation, you just sacrifice like a little dorky guy, a token you don't care about, and you get back the biggest beef man in your entire graveyard. And again, like I said with Serpent Generator, but more applicable and with far more promise this time around, if you combine it with things that can untap it and use it multiple times in a turn, Hell's Caretaker is actually still, I think, a good Magic card 30 years later. Number 8 is Rubinia Soulsinger, the actual only gold card from this set on this entire list. That's right, there were a ton of cards from Legends in this set, 71 to be exact, which is a huge chunk of Chronicles, and a lot of those cards from Legends are gold. But a lot of them are bad. They're all cards that we thought were awesome back in the day, right? Like Dakin Blackblade, which is still actually pretty awesome, and Solkanar the Swamp King, who is everyone's favorite card of all time, right? And Arcades Sabbath. Like, these are all sweet cards with sweet art, and they're awesome monsters, and they're all just kind of bad. They're all just kind of not actually great by today's standards. But Rubinia Soulsinger? Rubinia Soulsinger. I want to say Bringer. Is it Soulbringer? Rubina? Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Rubina is just kind of like another copy of Mtg Rebarrett. And in the 99 of Mtg decks, it's actually really nice. But once you got both in the same pile, prepare for trouble. And make it double. Why did I do a Team Rocket joke there? I apologize wholeheartedly. But either way, once you have both of these out, you're easily the most irritating player at that Commander table. And it doesn't matter that you have a couple of ladies whose names are hard to pronounce. You're stealing everybody's stuff and you can pronounce those things. But number 7 is a card from Arabian Nights, which there weren't a whole lot of in Chronicles. And the ones that we got weren't very good. But we did get Aladdin, Aladdin, I don't know. I've never seen any property with this name on it in my entire life, so I have no idea how to pronounce that. Either way, again, it's surprising this card made it into Chronicles, considering that it's powerful. It's just kind of powerful on its face. You just gain control of your opponent's artifacts. It seems very good. That's just on its face. I don't really have any jokes outside of the pretending I've never seen a Disney movie thing. I don't really have any jokes. It's just, this can just steal your opponent's good artifacts, and I hear that good artifacts are a thing in Commander. But number 6 is Land's Edge, a seismic assault that anyone can use, and I feel like when they printed Seismic Assault, they thought they were upgrading Land's Edge, but Land's Edge you can play in not mono red decks, which is kind of refreshing, but still, it turns out that a lot of your opponents want their lands. They want to play them, and then play spells with them. Now you, however, you are an intelligent, well-prepared Magic player who built your deck around Land's Edge. So you probably have one of those like 96 land Commander piles, which totally do exist. So you can get your Land's Edge down, and even if your opponents are still at 40, you can end that turn with them all dead at your feet. I've seen it happen before. But as we hit number 5, this is where we're going to start getting into the really, really powerful stuff in Chronicles, like Recall, for instance. This card was restricted for a good long time back in the day, and restrictions are reserved, basically, for only the most powerful of cards. And yeah, you got to discard some cards to make this really sing for you, but most of the time you're getting rid of inconsequential stuff that you've collected over a couple of turns in order to get back the things that win the game for you. It's kind of amazing that I don't really recall this card being played against me very often back in the day, but I'd like to see it played against me nowadays because Recall is still a good Magic card. And number 4 is Ashnod's Altar. This is where we start getting into some relatively expensive stuff, right? One copy of Altar will cost you $10 from Chronicles, but that's better than you could be spending for a lot of copies of this card. And you get the old art if you get the Chronicles version, that nice Anson Maddox piece with like the pinkish purpley lighting. It's still good art to this day, but either way, you've probably seen this card on a commander table a time or two. This was printed before Wizards knew that you can't give players just free sacrifice outlets. Not only that, but a free sacrifice outlet that gives you mana. Not only does it not cost anything, it just gives you mana. What fools they were back then. But you can take good advantage of that design idiocy by including a copy of this in pretty much any deck that has creatures. I don't know, I wouldn't go that far, but any deck that wants to sacrifice creatures or get big combo-rific amounts of mana all in one turn, Ashnod's Altar is pretty much the first place you want to stop for all of those purposes. But we are in the top 3. These are really powerful cards, and a lot of them cost a little bit of money, but again, nowhere near as much money as you could be spending on them, so always remember that. We're going to look at number 3, City of Brass next. Now, those of you who were playing 20 or 25 years ago, I know how your mind works, and you immediately dropped the B and R from the word brass in your mind, didn't you? Everyone calls it that. Everyone calls it that. But aside from the funny nickname on this card, this is a land that produces any color of mana and comes into play untapped. Holy God, this is probably one of the most powerful non-basic lands in the history of Magic the Gathering. There's no restriction on what type of thing you can cast, right? We see lots of things like make any color mana, but only play creatures with it. Like, no, it pains you to make the mana, but you don't care. You just don't care. This goes in literally every non-mono-colored commander deck as far as I'm concerned. And again, you get the good art. There's plenty of art for City of Brass, but this is my favorite, except maybe the 5th edition art, which a lot of people think is ugly, but I really like the 5th edition art. The 5th edition is actually the cheapest print of this card. Which art do you like better? Let me know in the comments section. I think I like the Arabian Nights art best when it comes down to it. But either way, you can get, that was a long aside, you can get this card for under $25 right now on TCG Player. And honestly, for, again, one of the absolute best non-basic lands of all time, period, ever printed, that goes in almost every commander deck you could ever want to build, or pretty much every casual, non-monocolored deck you can think of, yeah. So I think it's worth like $23 for that. Anyway, number 2 is a card that you probably expected to see somewhere on this list, and that's Blood Moon. Right now, a copy of Blood Moon from the Dark is over $100. That's 3 figures. That's a lot to spend on a piece of cardboard, but if you wanted to play Blood Moon in Commander and be the absolute worst, if you just want to be the worst kind of Magic player, it is $18 to do that right now, and that's cheap. That is cheap irritation. And you can punish all the people who bought City of Brass after watching this video, so good for you. But either way, Blood Moon is, it's just not a nice Magic player's card. This is basically the worst kind of Magic player plays Blood Moon, and that's probably why I played Blood Moon for a couple of years back in the day. It's always been a special card to me, mostly because I am, for some reason, a sucker for any card that depicts the moon. I don't know why. I like the moon. There it is, right behind me. I don't know why I like it the way I do, but I like the moon. But also, aside from me liking the card and it's got the moon on it, the art is nice. It's a very good card, obviously. This will shut down a lot of stuff at the commander table and make you the number 1 target almost assuredly, so be careful about that. Unless another player is on mono red, and then you'll be best friends forever. But anyway, what's the number 1 card in this whole set if it's not freaking Blood Moon, or City of Brass for that matter? Well, I saved number 1 for a card that I think is not only extremely good on the commander table, in kind of the way that Blood Moon can be, but instead of putting a target on your head, I think people will actually high-five you for playing this card and maybe want to keep you around for a little while, because even though Concordant Crossroads is a global effect, you're still going to really like having it on the table. And so will your opponents, for that matter, but that's not what you care about. Again, you're an intelligent Magic player, and you are prepared for any situation. And when you put a card in your deck, you build your deck for that card. Not every single card in the deck, obviously, but still. When you play Concordant Crossroads, you are ready to drop it on turn 1 and reap the benefits on turn 2. everything has haste for just a single green mana is still unprecedented to this day. There is no effect quite as powerful that does anything near resembling this still in Magic the Gathering. There's a reason for it. Concordant Crossroads is an incredibly powerful Magic card, and even though you might get smacked in the teeth a couple of times by hasty dudes that aren't supposed to have haste on the commander table, again, I think that a lot of your opponents are going to want to keep the forever haste enabler around. I also really like saying it, Concordant Crossroads. That's a great name for like a farm on Stardew Valley or something. Concordant Crossroads. But anyway, that's my list. And there are some cards on here that I didn't include, but I think I've already talked about a lot of the cards I want to talk about. Witch Hunter. Puppet Master is a card that killed me a bunch back in the day. Petra Sphinx, is that what it's called? That's the first like white card draw spell. You know, that thing. First white card draw creature, at least, but you had to guess the thing you were going to draw, but that you could do that a number of ways. There were some cards that I wanted to mention. Now I have, but that's my entire list. Let me know how you felt about it. Yeah, there were no white cards on the list except for, I guess, Witch Hunter and the Sphinx I just mentioned. But, you know, Chronicles was printed back in a time when there were only 5 white cards. For 25 years, they only ever printed 5 playable white cards. It was Armageddon, Swords to Plowshares, Wrath of God, Land Tax, and Balance. That was it. Name another playable white card. Savannah Lions? I don't know. Still, like, that was kind of it. So yeah, I'm sorry that there weren't any white cards on the list, but this comes from a time when white was just awful. It was just bad. And was for close to 30 years. That's all for this one. Make sure you check out that Mtg Better Deck Tech. You don't have to, but I'd like if you did. Link in the description for that one. And a bunch of other stuff. If you want to link over to the Twitch so you can watch me play some games of Magic, there's a link for that. You want to link over to Patreon so you can throw $1 a month my way and get to vote on what content we do. It's the whole reason we're doing this video. I was amazed that the patrons let me do this video. It's just incredible. I thought like 4 other things were going to win before this video did, but somehow it did. But if you want to vote for other stuff, it's $1 a month. Link in the description to Patreon, and link in the description to a couple of other videos that we've done recently. You want to see me review the Croquis tournament that just happened, talk about the best decks from that? We got it. You want to see a little bit of gameplay from you dude down there? Play some fight rigging, make that card work in standard. I got that down there for you too. Just check the description. My friend, a lot of stuff down there in case you didn't know. But aside from that, on your way out, just like the video, if you do that one thing for me, that would mean a lot. But if you're not subscribed, maybe do that too. We don't just do standard stuff. We do garbage like this every now and again, and it's actually kind of my favorite thing to do. But that's it for this. Just let me know if I missed anything down there in the comments section. It's entirely possible that I did. And I will catch you cats later. I'm Dev from The Place. Thanks for watching, Wizards. Spread love. And be kind. Be kind, everybody. With one more globe shot. Look at that. Look at that. I am the strongest man in the entire world. This globe weighs 700 pounds. Did you know that? Man, look at it go.